thousands, right?
Oh yeah, well you and I
and
I forget. I remember Dan Scotty, Wes Cooley,
yeah,
and there was about 14 others
I
in
think
there.
yeah, John DeZell, and then
John
some
is-
car salesmen in Klamath Falls,
Oh
and
yeah.
I guess
Well, it was a crowded race, and
oh, it was interesting.
it was,
Wasn't it?
especially the forms we went through.
Oh gosh, yeah, what an experience. Yeah, what an experience that was. Yeah.
Okay, and then you came back and ran for county commissioner, and you were elected when?
Well, actually, I farmed. I went on and farmed. Then I was a police chief.
Yeah.
I worked as a radio talk show host for 3 years. I managed a motorcycle shop for about a year, and jumped out of that and went into farming. And then I also was a police chief for the city of Talent.
That's
for
right.
3 years.
For a couple of years. I remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
before I did that, and then I was working for the banks and doing other things and doing some financial stuff, and then the sheriff was newly elected. The new sheriff, Mike Winters, asked me to come back, and I went back to work.
Wow.
In the interim, I was city manager of Lakeview for a while too. Lakeview, Oregon. I forgot that.
Oh, the mosquito cap. No, that's Paisley.
That's Paisley. Yeah, they have the mosquito festival every year.
Yeah.
And
then you ran for
Mike asked me to be a captain, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I ran for county commissioner and was elected, and that was been over almost 8 years ago.
Wow. Well, I wanted to go through that because people need to know that you have elected not to run again.
Yep. I sort of believe in term limits.
Yeah, well, it's self-imposed term limits, but you're going to hang up your public service hat, but to a degree. But I just want to say thank you.
Well,
if you look back on all that is it's an incredible time, and you have done it well. You've done all those positions extremely well.
Well, I've tried to.
Yeah, well, you have, and you've been a hawk on a lot of key issues that were important, and it's got to be a big decision to say, no mo.
yeah. Well, if you think about it, I ran for office 13 times, stood for office 13 generals or primaries and general elections.
Wow.
I lost 2 elections. One was my first general election when I ran for county commissioner in 1978.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I lost by less than 1%, thank God. and then a few years later I ran for sheriff, and then of course the next race I lost was when we ran in the primary. There were 2 really good men I know in that primary, you and me.
Yeah, what can I say? Well, we tried hard.
And those were the only 2. But
we went on to be proved later after the other
That's
guy
right. We were absolutely right.
We were vindicated at the end.
Yeah, this guy's a flake.
Well, again, I just want to say thank you, and to our listeners and to our viewers. CW will be, when's your last day in office?
Well, it'll be probably January 6th or 7th, the first Monday of that month, and then the new commissioner, whoever that will be sworn in.
Okay. Well, you've done a great job, and I want to come back to the county because I had Brad Hicks and Kurt Bennett in here yesterday from the commission, from the chamber. And everywhere I go, you look around Jackson County, it's a happening place. And you commissioners, in spite of all your criticisms you get, we are a healthy county. We've got money in the bank, things are happening, and we got probably more growth going on here than any other in the 35 counties.
We really do. We really do. Yeah, it's very... the new infusion of commissioners with Don Skundrich and John Rasher bring a real good, keen business perspective. We just gave out, I think, 3 additional grants. Now, these grants don't help businesses get up and running. They're just a testimony of good faith on government's behalf to participate and to help create jobs, and the return to the county is very substantial. And so that was something that Don Skundrich wanted to do on top of what we already are doing. Basically, the county is giving out about $500,000 a year to help foster jobs and the creation of jobs with the various aspects of So Ready and the Sustainable Valley effort for jobs and job creation, and then this new initiative by Don. So it speaks very, very well of our efforts. Now, people are critical of that, but the point is that we must do everything we can to help foster jobs in the private sector, not the public sector. And that helps reverse the flow of funds and money to the public sector to help out the schools and to help out. Because as you know, the economic base for school support has been diminished because our economy's been diminished, and the loss of jobs, the loss of homes, the foreclosures, which are still going to be very substantial.
All right, let's take a look at, just for an example, O&C funds. Before you were elected, I know commissioners had looked down the road at this problem. I remember the late Hank Henry was looking at this, and others, and you come on board and others, and you guys have really managed that problem well, and I know that you're still working on it, but nonetheless, you realize that was a diminishing resource, and you had to do something else, and you made the switch. Now, a lot of other O&C counties are in serious trouble.
No, they didn't. They didn't make the switch, the other counties, and a lot of it has to do with, I don't mean to pick on Josephine County or Curry County, but those voters have decided that they just simply do not want any additional taxes to help pay for essential services. At some point, a lot of folks will have enough of the problems arising out of not having adequate law enforcement and so forth, and they'll make a decision. But now is not the time for them to do that. But with that said, we had to do other things different. I challenge anybody to try to find another government that reduced the staffing levels and overhead by 30%.
Wow.
That's a huge cut.
Wow.
And then we've had to put back a little bit, but generally speaking, the tax rate that supports the county is only, the taxes that support the county is only 10%. The rest of it are revenue. The airport is completely self-sustainable. Our parks are completely self-sustainable. Building and planning is not sustainable from a it was at one time when the building boom was going and people were really paying for permits, and so there's about a 50% match that goes into that. And obviously law enforcement, public safety, there's no way you're going to charge people to investigate burglaries.
Right.
So those kinds of things are not, those are discretionary and stuff, but we've made the right decisions for the right reasons. We prioritized government delivery of services, not that everybody is sacrosanct. Well, the big idea of trying to figure out how we could run 15 libraries.
Right. I was just going to come to the libraries. You saved them from going under.
Well, we saved them. Yeah, we saved them as best we could for the time being. It's not a long-term sustainable. We've got to at some point have some degree of revenue, whether it's the timber receipts that we are rightfully due, or it's augmented levies or whatever. To increase our tax rate would require a vote of the whole state under the existing laws. So I think people don't realize that. We can't just raise taxes willy-nilly. It has to be a levy or a temporary issue to help move that.
On those revenue from the receipts from timber receipts, you have lobbied hard. You have gone back to Washington. You have pounded on every door back there.
Still do.
And you still do.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going?
Well, for the first time in a long time, we have hope. There is a bill that's being proffered in the House. We're not getting a lot of support from the Senate on this issue, but for the first time, it's saying the federal government is not capable under their existing matrix of laws and regulations and so forth. They're not able to really meet their obligations under the O&C Act, and so we're saying break out 50% of the O&C lands and at least let us create a trust and manage those lands under the Oregon Forest Practices Act. It's less restrictive. It's more capable of making flexible decisions. The federal government, there's lots of wonderful people that work in the Forest Service and BLM, and I don't want to denigrate them, but the federal government as a structure, they can't even get out of their own way.
Yeah, right.
And
I've always said the people are great, the systems are broken.
The system is completely broken.
Yeah.
You have a secretary that, and they are so susceptible to political influence. And it's like riding this roller coaster, you know, when you try to get some movement. But now we have congressional support for the idea of breaking out these lands and producing a good volume of wood products, but yet making them completely sustainable on a truly sustainable basis that's good for the environment, because quite frankly, our forests are in terrible shape. They're undermanaged, overgrown, fire prone. The Forest Service used to have a reserve of money coming from the timber receipts, and now they have to borrow $1 billion a year just to help fight fires from Congress.
Wow, you know, and speaking of which, the tanker fleet age is now a big issue. As you know, Senator Wyden was in town speaking about that. We lost two weekends ago, that are the same kind of aircraft that come into here. You take the fire fuel that's on the forest floor now, you take the bad management, you add bad tankers or no tankers. I mean, what kind of a season are we going into here?
I don't know. You have a lot of tremendous... If the season turns real dry and real hot real quick, you have a tremendous amount of grass and fire overgrowth in right now, and it could be a real problem for us. It's a problem that's recognized even in Europe. You know, we have such massive expanses of forests that are they're dry forests, and the kind of forests that we have are very diverse. People think it's all one kind of forest. It's not like the wet forests up in northern Oregon. We have a very diverse, very dry, very susceptible to fire, and it really can create some substantial environmental problems.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll be right back. And C.W. Smith with us today, Jackson County Commissioner, and we're just getting a little bit of a county update, and also really, quite honestly, paying some tribute to him for his long and many years of public service, because this is his last year. He is going to go fishing. He may take me with him.
That's right.
We'll be right back.
Count on that.
Commissioner C.W. Smith with us today, and it's just a delight to have him in the studio. And we're talking about the condition of Jackson County and his own political and public service life, which has been a long.
You know, I can't believe that. It doesn't seem like that.
Well, I mean, you sheriff and deputy and police chief and banker, farmer, motorcycle enthusiast, commissioner, an all-around good guy. I mean, that's a busy schedule.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've gotten to do a lot of things that are very, very interesting. I suppose if I could do any one thing, it'd probably go back to farming on a hay farm. That was a lot of fun.
Really? A lot of work, though.
Well, it's all done by machine, and you're setting in a swather or a baler on a beautiful morning. And
well, there you go. Or you get those young football players coming out and let them buck the bales.
Well, no, these bales were too big. They were about 165 pounds apiece.
Wow.
3-tie and yeah, it was all done by machine.
Those big ones, huh?
Yeah.
How's the hay business in Southern Oregon?
Well, this year I think there's going to be a surplus of hay, but you know, your margins on hay are anywhere from maybe 3 to 10%. And you got to always work that, and
that's tight.
Depending on your energy costs to pump the water, to get water to the product, and then your energy costs to get the fuel to the balers and equipment and stuff like that is pretty intensive and stuff. But I think the market might be a little depressed this year, but not so much for alfalfa.
Well, how's water overall in Jackson County? How do we look?
Well, this year we're fine. We're fine. We were a little worried walking into this. You know, the water master's office is in the county, and I'm the liaison to the water master. So Larry Mentier and I have a chance to visit at least once a month. We're okay, and we did a little presentation about how we measure the water levels and tables. So we're in good shape, very good shape.
There is somewhat of a economic agricultural shift as we're seeing pears, but a whole lot more vineyards popping up.
A lot of vineyards. I'm not sure when we'll meet the saturation point.
Well, what I heard is vineyards aren't the problem. It's the processing. Once that fruit comes to harvest, you got to process it pretty fast. There just isn't enough wineries to do it.
That's right. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, and then have a varietal that's marketable and valuable.
Okay.
So it's a tough business.
It's tough, yeah.
But agriculture is a tough business.
Yeah, but those of us who were raised that way, you have a deep appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: we'd like to see more businesses come here, where there's some great growth. What is the county doing to create an incentive for some companies to come to Southern Oregon?
Well, we have a number of incentives. We have a new incentive program where we pay $2,000 for every job that you help create as a business. And I think we just gave out some grants, and I think there was a total of 48 new jobs being developed by three different businesses. One is a new business to the area altogether, and the others are expanding and stuff. And then we just gave out a fairly substantial grant to a company. Oh gosh, my mind is just not working as well as it could, but in White City that does chemicals and so forth, chemical. Wow. And so that's been very positive, because what that does, says to the business, we are invested with you. We have a stake in the game. We've got, and we're going to do everything we can to make it easier. We also have 5 enterprise zones, economic enterprise zones.
Okay.
And they're very helpful for businesses that come and start building new facilities. They don't get taxed on those buildings for 5 years, up to 5 years. And we're now looking at expanding the enterprise zones to other areas of the county. So
that's a good incentive.
So there's incentives, and of course Southern Oregon Economic Development is always on the prowl. And the other thing is that agriculture is second, lumber is third for our leading industry, and we would really like to get the wood products industry back and up and running again. And that's a huge,
Was there harvest going on to sustain that?
No, not right now, there isn't.
Okay.
It's barely enough to even, matter of fact, we've lost most of the infrastructure to sustain adequate wood products production. And that has left us out of a lot of markets. There's tremendous demand for wood products in Asia. It's emerging economies, the Chinese, Southeast Asia, even some of the Arab countries want our wood. There's a substantive amount of wood being sold in places that you wouldn't think of. And we can't compete at all because we can't access adequate amounts of on a steady basis.
Wow. So. All right, let's talk about, I know we're going to get going to get a new interchange down in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And what about the bypass around the airport going out Highway 62? What's the status on that?
It's rolling right along. It'll be done in phases. And there'll be a first phase, which is the most onerous, but not too bad. It's on the back side. And then the second phase will be probably completed in another 3 years. But, there was quite a bit of contention regarding that. There were,
Say it nicely,
and the board got involved with a lot of that and trying to get some rational thought on that. Originally, ODOT was going to be cutting through a bunch of businesses right on 62.
Oh,
And we, with a group of citizens, the Citizens Advisor Group, or the Citizens Group, had basically said, let's go to the back side. There's already a pre-existing, the old Medco Hall Road. There's an existing easement, a perfect spot to take that overflow. And it really will make a difference. It really will help traffic a lot. I don't think people realize the volume. That is the busiest stretch of road in the county right now, that Highway 62.
Yeah.
And it really will divert a lot of traffic and move it over to the freeway and access to the freeway.
So when's that going to start?
Well, they're already laying the groundwork, doing the purchasing and surveying. It's probably going to start within a year, maybe a year from now. It's budgeted, and so they're proceeding full steam ahead. So.
Well, you're going to wrap it up, and what's been your biggest joy about all this serving at the county level? Because you guys get a lot of criticism. You get pounded on. I've been to the public meetings. I've sat in the back of the room and heard you go, "Oh man, why would everybody ever want to do this?" But on the other hand, there's got to be some really, some real satisfaction that you're making some progress. I mean, the county is healthy. You guys have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, we do. We really do, and it's a team effort. We have some great citizens on our budget committee, and we've always had good citizen involvement in that, and they've always been very, very articulate and real sharp business people about how to best utilize money, and so that, and then the staffing and the people are committed. Jackson County gets an annual award every year for its outstanding accounting. Has as long as I can remember since I was sheriff. A strong accounting background and auditing process. So we've got a great team, and it really is who we elect to office, making sure that they have the ability to understand the big pictures. A lot of people get wrapped up in a lot of the minutia or a specific problem, and quite often the commissioners have a very broad view. It's much different than a municipality. They're pretty singular about the cities and their issues, but county government, I think, now this is just me speaking, I think county government is one of the most effective and broad forms of government that crosses a lot of, it has federal, state, and local mandates, and it has a huge amount of state mandates that it's carrying forward with. So, so you ask what the most, the greatest achievement?
You survived.
Yeah, I survived, yeah. Oh gosh, there's been so many good programs we've worked hard on getting. We're just finishing up on coordination. That has taken us over 4 years to get implemented. It's a lot more complex than people realize. And a good one is getting sewer services to the rural parts of the county. As you know, we have very poor soil types, and every time there's a flood, sewer system, or not, septic systems fail. And I think we're the only county, or there may be another county in the state that has actually sewer lines running into the rural areas. And people couldn't hook up to the sewer system. They had to pay a $10,000 processing fee to go through a Goal 11 exception, and it would be 2 years before they could, it was just, so now we were able to push through a piece of legislation that eliminated all of that process.
That's wonderful.
We rolled back a lot of processes for fruit stands, and that just happened, but we had to lobby hard for that with our legislators, and that was another good one that we were a little bit part, but that was statewide too.
One other thing before I run out of time here, C.W., back to the Sheriff's Department just for a moment. We are so well equipped in that area. I mean, Mike's done a wonderful job. It looks like the emergency response capabilities in Jackson County are just incredible.
Yeah. We diverted a lot of money into that program from Title II and Title III funding. That was part of the ONC Rural Schools and Forest Counties monies. A lot of it goes to education. We still fund a program in Butte Falls just for nature education, but a lot of that money was funded into emergency management. So we're set for years, and we have a tremendous emergency management program and search and rescue program, as you well know.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
You were in the former pilot.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Hey, thank you for your service. We'll see you a couple more times between now and the time you go fishing.
Hope so.
But your wife deserves you to have you home for a while.
She's thrilled to death, and she's already got a honey-do list.
That's wonderful. C.W. Smith with us today. All right, thank you, pal.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.